Hi guys, back illuminating humanity's minds. Here we go with the US Patent 200600144125A1. Now, this is a walking through walls training system. They basically patented the same knowledge that you can find over in India and Tibet, and they're wanting to control the knowledge. So they decided to go ahead and patent this information. But the thing to know about this is you can't patent this natural process that anyone can do. But what you do is you patent the name and the terms, the words. What we truly need is the real language, to use the real words, the spirit language. But we don't have that right now. It's all in the Semitic, which is known as Semitic language, and that is the fire letter languages that are Aramaic and Arabic and Hebrew and a few others that I can't recall right this moment, but let's get into this one. So, we have the classification, teaching not covered by other main groups of this subclass. Oh, isn't that fun? You can go and click on some of these things and it'll tell you some extra details. Health and medical sciences. Let's just go with the brief summary of the invention. This invention is not their invention, it's God's invention, the God, or the square Omicron Delta, which is sacred geometry of sound. This invention is a training system that enables a human being to acquire sufficient hyperspace energy in order to pull the body out of dimensional phase so that the person can walk through solid objects such as wooden doors. Background of the invention: a human being is a hyperspace energy being living in a physical container or body that is comprised of 67% water. This high percentage of water makes this invention possible. Referring to figure 1, the hyperspace energy being receives energy from our dimension through 7 vortices that run the length of the body. Let me pause right there. The 7 vortices are the 7 planetary bodies that sing their song, that create light, that are the 7 rays of color in our visual spectrum, and are honored as the 7 days of the week. So these are the chakras that they're speaking of. Each vortex connects to a separate hyperspace dimension, having its own particular frequency. This arrangement allows for the development of 7 modular energy components corresponding to the mind, spiritual eye, which is the pineal gland, the voice, which is the sound or moon, body, abdomen, plasma energy ball, which is a battery, and ground connection. Basically, it's between the basic alchemy of the yin and yang principle. The yang is the electric and the yin is magnetic. It's electromagnetic energies. The vortex A, known as the top vortex, supplies energy to the mind and provides a channel of communication to other entities in the universe. This channel has been tested up to 100,000 light years, which is the diameter of the galaxy. Now, this is just more information to confuse soft minds. And this 100,000 light years is only a code that I have not deciphered yet, but I'm sure someone out there knows what this code is. And basically, the diameter of your galaxy is going to be within and without. So it is a spiritual dimensional portal placement system that we can leave. If we leave our body behind and learn how to astral project, then we can go to other planes of reality. This has already been spoken of, and those planes have been mapped out by people that have actually gone there. We just need to grab onto the knowledge and begin our process. Vortex B is known as the spiritual eye, and it has a hollow cone-like appearance surrounded by white, misty, low-density hyperspace energy. Because the eye is modular, the mind can project it to vast distances, a process known as remote viewing. Vortex C, known as the voice and hearing module, can also be projected to enormous distances in order to communicate verbally with other entities. Using the proper remote viewing instruments, it is possible to project both the eye and verbal modules to see and talk at the same time. Vortex D, known as the heart vortex, provides protective energy to the upper internal organs, arms, and hands. Vortex E provides protective energy for the lower organs, such as the intestines, liver, and kidneys. Vortex F, known as the battery of the body, consists of an orange-colored plasma energy ball about 1 or 2 inches in diameter. The body becomes paralyzed if this ball is removed from the body. When the hyperspace energy being leaves the body, the vortices close and the battery takes over in order to keep the body functioning. This vortex also plays a role in the creation of the astral energy body. It says baby. Astral energy baby that attaches to the fertilized egg. Vortex G is the ground vortex, which rotates in the counterclockwise direction in order to provide an energy ground for the electrical circuit. All the other vortices rotate in the clockwise direction as seen from the front, such that the energy flows into the vortex according to the right-hand rule of physics. This means that it's basically bringing in time. Vortex H is the hand vortex, which rotates counterclockwise on the right hand and clockwise on the left hand, as seen looking at the palm. Thus, there is a rotating flow of hyperspace energy between the two hands when the palms are facing each other. Referring to Figure 2, each vortex feeds energy into its own hyperspace module shown by the lettered box. In terms of quantum mechanics, each box is actually a potential energy well in which each module develops separately. At the time of death of the body, these modules are joined together as a single energy being. The process is powered by the plasma energy ball battery, which also contains the logical instructions for assembly. Different people, as tested by the pendulum on the hand vortex, have different vortex sizes. 3 people were tested. The first person had almost no rotational movement, showing very little energy. The second person had a vortex radius of 1 inch. Another had a vortex radius of 4 inches, which covered his entire hand. The latter also has the ability to lift another human being, lying prone on a table, off the table by flowing low-density hyperspace energy into the person through the hand vortices. He has also experienced walking through a solid wooden door with a dog at his side. What this means is that there is a way, as described in this invention of creating large energy vortices which will enable a person to acquire sufficient energy to walk out of dimension through solid objects such as wooden doors. Researching the historical records, referring to the statue in Figure 3, a humble black Catholic Dominican friar of the Santo Rosario convent by the name of San Martin de Porres, living in Peru in 1500s, also developed this ability to walk through doors. For his beatification, many witnesses came forward to recount his extraordinary abilities. For example, a witness who worked in the convent went to the cell of San Martin to ask for something to eat. When he reached the cell, he saw San Martin leaving with some medications, apparently to heal someone sick. The witness waited by the open door of the cell for his return. After having waited a while without being distracted by anything else, he saw said venerable brother Fray Martin come out from his cell from the inside and call him by name. The witness was terrified, not understanding how this was possible. The woman who gave me the statue told me that he could walk miles and miles each day to visit the poor. The task of walking means that there is a velocity involved. Because the body has mass, then there is a mass times a velocity. Or momentum involved in this ability. Notice also that the statue shows him walking with his right arm crossed over his left arm in the form of an X. What this walking momentum means in terms of physics is given in the following analysis. The human body consists of 67% water. A water molecule consists of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom having the atomic formula H2O. The atomic weight of one atom of hydrogen is 1008 AWU. AWU. The atomic weight of one atom of oxygen is 16 AWU. The molecular weight of one atom of water is therefore weight of two atoms of hydrogen, weight of one atom of oxygen. The formula weight is just the atomic weight expressed in grams. Thus, the formula weight of water would be 18 grams or 0.018016 kilograms. According to Avogadro's law, the formula weight contains, the math doesn't matter. What it is, it's a spiritual process, and they're trying to make it seem like it's scientific. Thus, the mass of one water molecule is the formula weight divided by the number of molecules. According to Einstein's special theory of relativity, energy is equal to the mass times the speed of light squared. The energy of a photon is equal to Planck's constant h times frequency of f of the photon, equating to two energies. This is all just mumble jumble to confuse people. All it is mind-body energy. Once you can control your mind, you can control your physical existence. This is the process. All of this math jargon and all of these equations are merely scientifically proven to create chaos in people's minds so they get confuddled and confused. When you comprehend that spirituality exists in each of us and that it's all a part of our own journey to learn some of these processes, that's all it really takes. It's the belief system that you need in order to know that these things are real, that we're living in a dense holographic dream that can actually be altered through our states of mind and our belief system. So this is why they want to get to the children of the world. They dampen our belief system and control it so that we won't believe who we truly are when we know who we are when we come into the world. We're amazing and we believe in everything. Referring to figure 4, these two lines are plotted in the tetrahedron diagram. Planck mass line A reflects off sphere C and returns to the Planck wavelength B, which shows the dual nature of quantum physics. Let's just call it the ether. All this quantum physics is another term for the New Age to confuse minds. If you go back into alchemy, they talk about the ether, they talk about spiritual things, and it's just practical knowledge. It's not anything that's special. You know, it's like this is spirit science, but they want to make it seem like they can control it and own it, and you cannot own it because this is something that has given to us by the light of heaven, which is known as God. God is the tetragrammaton. God is sound frequency. God, if you wanted to truly represent it, is the cube plus the sphere plus the triangle or pyramid. This is gamma, epsilon, delta. These are the different geometries that create God, or what we know as God. It is part of the tetragrammaton. The tetragrammaton is God, as it is the light from heaven. When you look up at the night sky, you're looking at the stars, which is the tetragrammaton, which is a matrix of energy that we can go to when we leave our physical body. The sounds of the stars can be harnessed through knowledge, and that knowledge is the highest obtainable knowledge in this existence on how to traverse the stars and how to use the sound frequencies that they emit to be turned into a language or a sound frequency combined in specific patterns to co-create through the etheric principle. That's what God is, and we have been granted this ability to use these special tools to play as miniature gods in this existence. We are just diminished from our original form. Okay, well, this gets into too much technical stuff, so I'm skipping over this. Let's go into this experiment. Okay, looking at the statue of Saint Martin, his arms are crossed over each other. The vortex of the right hand points backward, and the left hand vortex points forward due to the reversed rotation. Referring to figure 9, this creates a rotational energy channel around his body. The stride length is calculated according to body mass, and then a banner printout is made showing where the footprints are to be placed each second. The question is, what happens when one walks the walk? On the very first experiment, referring to figure 10, what happens is that after taking only 6 strides on the banner printout, a huge spinning vortex develops over the top of the head, and the vortex locks into the head vortex in the center of the chest. In everyday life, this vortex is not created because normal walking is much faster and the hands are held at the side of the body. The energy rush through the pineal gland is so intense that one feels immediately sleepy and starts yawning excessively due to the increased flow of melatonin. After practicing with the banner printout, long walks were made through the park. In this case, a vertical white line rotated around a vertical axis located about 6 feet perpendicular to the path on the right side of the body. When the walking speed was correct, this white line would lock onto the center line of the body. Speeding up or down caused the white line to lose synchronization and rotate away. This white line is related to the ability to levitate the body. San Martin had so much energy that, according to witness testimony, he could float horizontally in the air with his head resting against the bowed head of Christ on a carved wooden cross. Thus, St. Martin's energy sources were channeling energy from Christ, collecting broom energy as described in a separate patent application, and the walking momentum vortex energy. During the early part of the 20th century, a man's parents were lying in bed dying of tuberculosis. With their permission, he placed a weighing scale under each of their beds. When they passed away, he found that each scale registered a loss in weight of 2.5 ounces. This is equivalent to 0.071 kilogram, which is the mass of the human energy being. After conducting a number of experiments with water vortices draining from a cylindrical tank, it can be stated from Bernoulli's theorem that the potential energy plus the kinetic energy is a constant. The shape of the inner surface of the water circulation has a velocity proportional to the inverse of the radius, so the shape of the surface is z minus z0, which says that the height of the vortex is proportional to the inverse of the square of the radius. The hand vortex area ratio between the second test subject and the third test subject is equal to the square of their radii. Because the speed of light at the boundary was determined to be 1 meter per second, the energy of the third test subject is blah, 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 blah. Having this radius is added to the energy of the water molecule to produce augmented energy circle. This circle intersects the mass of the water molecule outside the Planck box at point. This means that the increased hyperspace energy moves the water molecule and hence the body out of dimension. Furthermore, circle J is tangent to the walking momentum ratio circle I, which keeps the geometry locked together. Summary of the invention. It is the object of this invention to create a training system that allows a person to develop the ability to walk around out of dimension, passing through solid objects. This invention is based on one of the most remarkable relationships between the water molecule and the boundary between space and hyperspace. The mass of the water molecule is equal to the energy of the water molecule of the boundary. Because the body is composed of 67% water, the body sits on the boundary such that any additional increase in energy would move the body out of dimension into hyperspace. Because human beings are actually hyperspace energy beings living in physical bodies, the additional energy required to move the body out of dimension comes from increasing the energy of the hyperspace being. One source of this energy comes from walking cross-handed at the proper velocity in order to generate a large hyperspace energy vortex that flows energy into the potential wells of the hyperspace being. This increased hyperspace energy will then allow the person to walk around out of dimension through solid wooden doors. Because the door and the person are in two slightly different dimensions at the same moment, it appears that the person is walking through the door. After passing through the closed door, the person then returns to our dimension and emerges in the interior of the closed door room. This technique can be used in reverse to heal an infected hand instantaneously. A salve made from St. Mary's herb is applied to the skin of the infected hand. The hyperspace energy then flows through the right hand vortex such that the infected hand and the salve are taken out of dimension slightly. What happens is similar to when a short piece of straw is embedded in a hard wooden telephone pole as a tornado passes over the pole. The straw and the pole are taken out of dimension such that they are briefly merged together. As the tornado moves on, both objects come back to dimension merged together. Thus, the salve, which is the straw, is merged with the bacteria pole in hyperspace such that the bacteria is killed instantly. Removing the hand vortex brings the infected hand back into dimension cured. Based on this information and the results of many experiments, this invention creates a large vortex by walking at a certain velocity with the hands crossed over the chest. The proper walking momentum is created by a computer program that inputs the person's weight, shoe length, and the number of strides to be taken. The program then prints out a banner showing the footprints where the person has to step each second. When a person obtains sufficient energy from these methods, the person is then tuned to the subspace geometry of the universe, as will be shown using the tetrahedron physics diagram. So this hyperspace energy that they're speaking of actually comes from the etheric realm, and it can be brought into the physical body through the air and water principle. Now, as we know, they have been poisoning us on many levels, and it is basically to dampen these abilities that we have. These oligarchs who have been fighting for positions of power due to the nature of our construct world being ruled by one particular planetary body during an astrological age, that determines which god they're actually following, and it determines the amount of energy that is being emitted during that particular time. Now, it does not mean that we cannot harness these energies that are all around us at any given moment, but in order to have this energy ability, we need to have the knowledge first of how to attain it and how to use it. And it's basically in developing the mind to know about the different connectivities that we can make with the energetic bodies that are overlapping each other in order. So when we're talking about these energetic principles of the body, you're talking about things that are electric and magnetic. And these are the basic foundational principles you can find in Hermetics. If you get the book Initiation into Hermetics, it goes through all of the different energy principles of the different body parts. And they're either electric, magnetic, or both. And so that's where, this knowledge actually comes from. And since we're going into a new reality based in metaphysics versus the metaverse, we are given these tools to start to work with again as basic foundational knowledge and to know ourselves fully, because we're going to have to do battle in the future against the machines that are also going to be part human. So, all of these things that we speak of today, everything has already happened before. There's nothing new to be found or discovered in this world. Everything's already here. It's part of the Akashic records, and it's also part of the wheel of time that continues to tick and evolve us and to hone our soul in this evolutionary consciousness construct. Because the zodiac is actually part of the different attributes of alchemy. When you're wanting to do processes to make a change in a structure, the zodiac symbols actually represent those changes in their symbolism. So here we have the symbols of the zodiac, and they represent specific alchemy attributes. These are processes, which means that these processes, because they are in the astrological timelines, that we know as astrological ages or constellational ages. These processes are being exacted upon our physical being and our spiritual being so that we can thereby be transformed and transmuted into a different entity in the future. So we go through all the different 12 phases of alchemy as we progress along the wheel of time. As you can see here in this wheel of time, here are the alchemy symbols, with each being its own manner of practice to alchemize the soul or spirit, to be honed in a particular manner. Now, there will be souls that go around this wheel and they don't become more enlightened or whatever it is the soul purpose is. Maybe they become more dark. Maybe they just stay in between. This great wheel of time just continues around and around in cycles. Each age expresses itself through humans and their actions. As we can see with where we are now in the timeline, we're going into an air sign. This is one of the platonic solids for air, and the next one will be all things of Earth. Earth, Saturn, cube. This is time and space in this cube shape. Now, all things of air equate to all things of spirit and of mind. And then the physical binding will come when Saturn energy is exacted through the technology. So it will bind us in space and time. That's why it's cube shape. So there's a dark force that gets to play in this playing field. And if you're a wise, awakened, illuminated soul, you will avoid these types of traps for the consciousness, the soul consciousness that is going to be trapped in time and space, because the computers, the cell phones, all of these devices are going to eventually pull us forward into the future to where we're using them as a daily practice. We don't even worry about what they represent as we do right now. We see the deception. Later, as we evolve in time, the consciousness will again forget about this deception that is upon us, and they will embrace it as part of society. When it becomes normalized, that's when people fall asleep and they forget about the foundations of their reality, because it becomes a process of everyday living. So then that technology is tied to the underworld, because this is not our technology. This is someone else's technology that's used for darkness and dark practices. We can use it for the benefit of all, and it will be used in such ways, but we have to be mindful of who actually owns, operates, and controls this technology, where this technology is actually held, because there's been some indications and some different places of information that have stated that the D-Wave computers actually exist underground. Perhaps one of those places is considered Dreamland, where the shadow government has a lot of these technologies, because this technology does not disappear completely from our world. It is held within the ground where things can hide for a very, very extremely long amounts of time. And since that can happen, where we are can be wiped clean because of the wars, because of the fighting, because of the light and the dark meeting on the surface here to do battle, to try to illuminate or diminish knowledge. These are the things that we get pushed and pulled through around the great wheel of time that is alchemizing our spiritual body and our physical bodies. Now, after studying this wheel of time with spiritual eyes, I get a sense that this iron winter, which represents the blood, because the iron is in our blood, which makes it red, that once we get to the Bronze Age, we will eventually have copper blood, because copper is a component of bronze, and that somehow that's going to pull us away from the technology that's rising, which is the frequencies, and the hybrid race, which is a distortion, a combination of water creatures and land creatures. They're already doing both of these practices. They come from beneath the ground. This is why it gets wiped after a time, because once we regain all this lost knowledge and we align ourselves with all of the beings that are here upon earth During the age of Gemini is basically the time of all brotherly love and brotherhood coming together. That's why these symbols are so important. This is two equal signs, and it's the columns of those buildings that they built during that time, because they comprehend that the sacred geometries of sound are actually light frequencies, and that they create those light frequencies to therefore balance their environment and their mind body soul connection. Gemini is a symbol of male and female, the twins, and everything is in balance during this time. As you can see, the mind, which is the oneness, we are the one with the all, the mind, the God space, the God sense, the God mind. Then this is spirit, mind and spirit combined. When you square it, this is the physical body. Noting that this circle is surrounding this square tells me that the oneness of all, the one mind collectively, masters physicality. But this is when we master the mind. Now over here, this is the beginning phase of mastering the four elements of alchemy. The point is going up right here, and this is the downward point. We are mastering the magic of our world, the four elements of alchemy, the physical plane, and all of these attributes. This is a fire sign. This is active principle. This is the age of Leo. That's why they put Leo the lion as a sphinx. And it may have had a head of a lion, because that head that is on the sphinx does not fit the proportions of the body. And it was obviously removed, but it could also be that it was a different face. But, you know, as man begins to see himself through all of these alchemy ages and processes of spirit, he begins to realize that he is one with everything. And that's where we have to learn all of the hard lessons right now. And we're in the darkest phase where many people have forgotten who they are. And they're having to learn again all of the base knowledge. And they're just young souls too that are here to learn the basics of this reality. And they have to start with the darkest time. And so they go through the hardest lessons of being recycled, reclaimed by the darkness. At some point, they get let free, because there are shamans in this existence that can do this. And that is expressed in another video where the shaman in Brazil actually were stating that a particular shaman can release the spirit from the traps of the ant beings, which are the gray aliens. All of this is just an expression of soul and the experiences of the path of the soul. And we just evolve throughout time, through our incarnations, to grow in knowledge, to grow in enlightenment. It becomes more light as we gain more knowledge, more gnosis. Then our cellular structure is very important. That's why they're poisoning us. Again, I'm just going over this repeatedly so that people can kind of grasp the concept that they've been poisoning everything: land, air, water, food sources, our clothing. And, you know, everything that we use is to dampen our vibrational frequency that we emit, so that we will not turn into light and leave the physical plane completely and wholly. The darkness always wants to magnetize towards darkness, which is physicality. But the light always wants to electrify the electrical principle, the light principle inside of us, to illuminate, to enlighten, to show the path forward through light. That is the duality. And we can choose which path we wish to master. We can master the physical plane, which I believe is tied heavily to Saudi Arabia. I believe that they are the masters of the physical plane, and that they try to hold that title throughout all space and time. And this is why they hand down and pass down the knowledge through their oral traditions, and hold on to the Semitic languages, which are cymatic languages of sound, to be able to work with the spiritual plane and to master it completely, so that you can control all of the different aspects and the kingdoms that come about through this psychological warfare. It's a spiritual warfare battle. Whenever we go through these astrological ages, there has to be a new energy. And so the tribe that dominates each astrological age begins to do the battles so that they can then rule the age that they worship their God in. And that's where we are now. The Israelites, which is Isis Ra El, El is their God, which means that El is first. Remember that they read things backwards. We read things left to right. They read things right to left. Right to left tells me that it's of darkness, and the left to right is going towards the light, which is the eastern sky, which is where the sun rises. So these are just things to note. And that also, when you read down to up, you're also reading from earth to heaven. And then if you're reading from up to down, it's from heaven to earth or even below. So these are all symbolic directions that a lot of people don't grasp with symbolism. Everything reads in symbolism. Your subconscious mind, which is actually your superconscious mind, it's not beneath you, it's above you. It is the one that can actually know all of these foundations and know that it only speaks through symbolism and that it reads everything, all the images that you feed your mind. It's listening to this and it's manifesting through the etheric principle. Whatever your mind sees, it creates. And that's why, when we come together, we help co-create whatever reality we see based on our actions and intentions and interacting inside that realm. So right now we're in a Saturnian realm where it's dominated by cube shapes, square forms, rectangles, things that are black, things that are dark, things that are shadow or secret. There's death and destruction all around in order to bring in this energy. And those are all Saturnian types of energies. Saturn is Satan. Satan is El. El is El Elyon, and it's also the Grim Reaper, the Sandman, ruler of the dreamland, and Father Time. These are all aspects of Saturn/Satan. I try to express this in many of my videos so that people can comprehend what it truly means. All they did throughout time was confuse us with words. Through the different cultures, the different languages, they will alter and use a different name in order to express the same type of being or energy. Their god is right here, Saturn, this is a scythe. And it is also considered Satan, who is considered God of this plane, which is the physical plane, which is why we have shadow in our world. Anywhere you see shadow is evidence of Saturnian presence, Saturn energy. Saturn helps to co-create this existence because in Platonic solids, which is what this is right here, Earth and Saturn are cube shaped. What does that mean? Well, when you look around, everything is Saturnian. Basically, Earth is Saturn. The Saturnian energy is space and time. It gives us space to walk around and time to be here. So, in that spiritual sense, you can't go into the celestial heavens in a straight line. You have to leave your physical body, but you can possibly jump timelines or jump into an alternate reality of this plane. That's the other aspect to space that they have not disclosed, but that Nikola Tesla obviously was working on, during that Philadelphia experiment where they made the ship disappear using radar systems. It came back and people were melded into the ship. So they were experimenting then with time travel. They surely have mastered that ability by now, and they can jump timelines and go to different places with equipment. You have to create a vortex field of energy, just like what we're learning here in the principles of mastering being able to walk through walls. You can manipulate your vortex fields and jump through timelines. This is another aspect of mastering the mind that only happens usually when we get over here. We master the mind and the body through these two ages. But the darkness is always chasing us around the wheel of time. That's why they have a serpent here. The serpent says, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to chase you. You're going to reincarnate. You're going to learn these hard lessons. Eventually, if you gain enough light, which is knowledge, then you can choose your incarnations. You can choose how long you wish to stay within an incarnation. And you can also choose not to incarnate, but it comes through gnosis. And that's what they were teaching once they got to the golden ages. They were teaching spiritual knowledge. The Golden Springs highlight was right here in Taurus, but Taurus is an earth energy. Again, the cube. So all things of the material plane. We became more interested in the material world as opposed to the spiritual world, which is right here. And so bringing that energy into this, we then began to use the knowledge of spirit sciences in the physical reality and began using this as weapons. So the highest knowledge was attained. We had the highest spiritual point here in Taurus, which is why they say it's the devil, it's the bull. It represents a particular alchemy action. And then we go into Aries, which is the highest attainable knowledge right here in this calcination, where it's the infant. I would say it's the infinite. I am presence, the infinite one. This is the oneness, the wholeness, the all. We know about our light. We know about the sun. The sun reigns supreme because this is the time of fire. Fire is pyramid. Pyramid means fire, but it's also spirit. So in the physical aspect of it, because we've passed just the thoughts of spirit, we've moved into the physical, and now we're entering the time of real war because Mars is the god of war. And it's not a time for peace. So wars break out everywhere. They're using the highest attainable knowledge, which is the knowledge of spirit and the stars, celestial heavens, this planetary alignment, and the zodiac. All of these things of high magic are used to do battle on plane Earth. This is the Earth plane, the physical plane, the Saturnian plane, and we fall back down from the highest estate, which is the crown chakra, in reference to the physical body. We fall back down to the 2 feet of Pisces, back down to the watery emotional state of trying to figure out who we are, because they collapse the entire system. The Vatican came in, squandered away the knowledge, hid it away for their watery royal see that they had. They have the Holy See, the SEA, to enact the sea laws, the laws of the sea, into our reality. They started blending the timeline, creating their own story, saying that everybody who was born during this timeline is now owned by them and their Gregorian calendar story. Then we cross over into the age of Aquarius, where we now find ourselves on the cusp of the coming age and the seeds that are being planted for the future, which is the technology, the mind, everything to do with mind, because all of the information is held in a space that is not tangible. So all of the technology, the online systems, the internet, it's actually internet. You can connect to your own divine internet, or you can connect to the metaverse internet and become part of darkness. Do you see where this is? The duality is becoming more revealed as we continue to go forth into the age of Aquarius, which begins here at the ankles. It's 2 foundational columns, right? You have the metaverse and you have the metaphysical. Those are 2 different paths. You can blend the 2 paths because you have that ability to be able to mix the knowledge of the 2, but it's going to rise and grow, just like the calves do. And the end of the age of Aquarius, it stops just below the kneecap. So it goes up the shins of the human body to just below the knee at Capricorn. And at Capricorn is where we're going to learn everything to do about hybrids and how to deal with animal-human hybrids. And then that's going to grow and evolve into two different paths, because you'll have the robot animal-human hybrids, and you'll have the humans who have tried to maintain their genome as sacred. That will grow as the thighs grow into the hips, which is where Sagittarius is. That's why it's a horse person. It's a mastery of animals and the natural world of animals. And we move forward together as hips move forward and closer together in time. But then we enter Scorpio, which rules all of the genitals. So we're going to be basically propagating the earth again, restructuring the earth, bringing back nature, bringing about all of the things in the natural world and combining them with all of the knowledge of our technologies and the hybrid beings. We're working together. We're co-creating this reality again. And we go into the scales of Libra. And Libra is the balance. So we're bringing back the balance in the world again. All things of nature. Look, it's green. This is the heart chakra. The seven-pointed star is the elven star, which means we are working with great magic in great ways to bring about the positive changes. But again, the darkness is always chasing us around this wheel of time. So it exists somewhere in the world. Then when we get to Virgo, look, it's alchemy. We get into the knowledge of using the alchemy of the four elements, quite possibly with magical practice more used in and throughout the world. I believe that the buildings will have this symbol on them. As we have moved away from the Saturnian energy that was way back here, where all of that energy and knowledge was used only in one particular area of the world, right now we're seeing it start to spread back into the world and pour back into the world with the Aquarian water. But then up here is where we become masters of it again as a world collective. And that's when we move around to Leo, the knowledge of the pentagram, using the magical practice, using the four elements of alchemy, plus the etheric principle, learning about ourselves and our connection to all things, moving into the mastery of mind and body, and then eventually moving into the mastery of complete mind alone. So, all of these principles are out here. We can levitate objects. We can make things appear before our eyes. These are masteries of this existence. And it is waiting for us to reconnect with it through our own study, through our own quest for knowledge. That's what this Wheel of Time represents. And that's what all of the alchemy that is depicted in these 12 zodiac houses represents. So knowing a little bit more about how this actually works with the etheric principle, with the water, with the mind, with the body, with the physicality, eating less poisons, trying to breathe with pranayama breathing techniques, learning the art of the Tao, because the Tao will teach you these practices alone. These are the things that you can take on your journey and to discover yourself once more and to discover your own innate abilities, what you're actually good at, what you came here to do. And the basic principle is found in your zodiac chart with your sun sign. So your sun is going to be the light of your existence. And it is the main component of the element that you imbibe. It is the greatest component that you imbibe. But you do have the capabilities of all of the other elements because you are the elements, and the elements are you. They're outside and inside of you. So I hope that made sense. Okay, a brief description of the drawings. Figure 1 shows the energy vortices of the human body. Figure 2 is 7 potential wells fed by the energy vortices of the body. Figure 3, carved wooden statue of San Martin de Porres, who could walk through solid wooden doors. Figure 4 is tetrahedron diagram showing boundaries of Planck box of dimension. Figure 5 is the tetrahedron diagram showing mass of water molecule. Figure 6, tetrahedron diagram showing water molecule energy and mass are equal at the Planck box boundary. Figure 7, tetrahedron diagram showing that water molecule momentum is tangent to the boundaries of the Planck box. Figure 8, tetrahedron diagram showing the momentum ratio required to reach the Planck wavelength boundary from the water momentum. Figure 9, perspective view of crossed hand momentum walking using banner printout. Figure 10, perspective view of vortex generated by momentum walking. Figure 11, tetrahedron diagram showing how additional hyperspace energy supplied to the potential wells of the hyperspace energy being enables the human body to be pulled out of dimension. Figure 12, tetrahedron diagram showing the inverted tetrahedrons whose crossing represents the merging of two worlds between space and hyperspace. It's basically the energies, if you can think of it in terms of yin and yang, which is light and magnetism, or light is electricity, then you're creating a hyperspace vortex. I imagine that this also requires breath work because breath is air, which is fire. It brings the fire into the body, ignites the body, and then your water molecules can then be electrified, and then somehow, the magnetism maybe breaks up with all of your molecules, and then you can then walk through the door. I kind of comprehend this a bit, so just from studying alchemy. So it's going to help if you gain some insight into alchemy as to how to do this, because the sacred geometry is speaking a language as well. And once you get familiar with the symbolism, then you can start to comprehend it even more. Figure 13, tetrahedron diagram showing that the proton wavelength is determined by the Planck mass tangent to the inverted tetrahedrons. Figure 14, tetrahedron diagram showing that the mass of the universe determines the electron and proton elementary particles. Here we go. This is where they confuse people with the electron and proton theory information. A proton is basically labeled as positive, and it makes no sense because the proton is actually, it should be electron because the proton is electric and the electron is magnetic. So they've tried to invert the information and the knowledge through the words and feed us new terms to confuse our minds and create chaos. When you study yin and yang and the basic alchemy of the four elements, this can be revealed to you and you will know exactly how to decipher this information. Figure 15, tetrahedron diagram showing that momentum walking together with the increased energy of the hyperspace energy being is tangent to the mass of the universe. Figure 16, computer program block diagram for printing banner footprints. Figure 17, computer program input dialog window. Figure 18, computer program calculation of stride length per second. Figure 19, 6-stride screen banner printout for 220-pound person. In other words, they're showing you that men are using these different diagrams in these experiments. Figure 20, project tree showing help information by double-clicking on node. Detailed description of the invention. Referring to figure 12, a tetrahedron is added to the diagram. The tip of the tetrahedron falls on the base constant, which is equal to Planck's constant divided by the speed of light. Again, they're overcomplicating the simplicity of inner knowing and inner gnosis, of knowledge of your physical body and your feelings, your emotions. These are the things that can move you through these objects. Knowing that you can do this, being at one with the object. They're not even expressing what this person, San Martin, was actually doing physically because they weren't there at that time. They don't know what energy he was emitting on the inside of his body. So you have to be in tune with the natural processes of your own body, and feeling is electromagnetism. So your thoughts are electric and your emotions are magnetic. So once you gain the wisdom of, practicing with your emotional body and your thought body, your mental state, you can start feeling the magnetism. Magnetism typically comes like when you attract something, when you're in love, for example, you become hypermagnetic, and recognize those emotional states and how it feels on the inside, because those feelings I've been practicing this myself on how to manifest things to come my way. And it's all about elevating your consciousness to the higher planes, to gratitude, love, and joy, to these other physical aspects that we don't necessarily put our focus on because we're just emotional and expressing things without actually thinking about how we feel on the inside. Essentially, this is the process, but they're trying to put it into all these calculated terms mathematically and scientifically when it's really about knowing yourself inwardly. I'm going to skip over a lot of this geometry and stuff because it really, to me, it has no intrinsic value. To a scientific mind, it might, have more importance. But I think just from my spiritual analysis of, the world and my experiences, I can grasp it better if I just feel, which is a right brain aspect. And, women are mostly in their right brain. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. So, in summary, the purpose of the training system is to substantially increase the energy of a human being who will then have the capability of walking through walls, body levitation, instantaneous healing of infections, full body teleportation to another location, remote viewing at vast distances in terms of light years, and looking into hyperspace CO dimensions. The third test subject and I have been able to experience all of the above phenomena. He did it through augmenting his energy, and I have done it through the application of electromagnetic fields by spinning on my vortex accelerator machine and using this invention. So I don't know why they had to patent this information, because this is natural law. These are natural means. You cannot own this system, which is, all of this is a fallacy of what they've tried to do with this, saying that this is my invention and nobody else can own it. That's like saying this one person owns your physical body energy and can sue you for using it. It's ridiculous. Maybe that's what they're trying to do with this patent. I don't know. Or maybe it's just the way that they've written it out that's patented and that's it, because this is a capability that everybody can do. It's just like walking and breathing and talking. But anyway, I'll leave you guys to go over this information as much as you'd like, and I'll leave the link in the description box. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you on the next one.